Hey guys, King of Charmers here to be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. Today I bring to you my top 5 teams for the Great League Remix. Season 13 is upon us, and it is pretty trash, I'm not going to lie. It was a very, well, it's as to be expected, it's a very lazy, and even though Charm is nerfed, it's only nerfed by 1 damage, so yeah. Niantic going Niantic, that's all I have to say. But hopefully y'all are excited for Season 13. It brings back the Steven pose and animated Steven pose this time around. And all of us that made Legend in Season 1 were like, really, dude? Y'all are that lazy? But the good thing is, this can bank you to... They're probably going to recycle the rest of the other poses and then make them animated. So that's how lazy Niantic is. Instead of giving you a pose that's actually different, they're just going to recycle stuff because they're supremely lazy, as to be expected. But before we get started with my therapist mental health tip of the day, as usual, you could skip this by going to the chapters. This is the relationship between mental and physical health. So if you've seen it, I haven't published a video in a minute just because I have had the flu for last week. I very rarely get sick. I didn't get sick enough to where I couldn't do my job or anything like that, but I definitely got chills and everything, and yeah, the flu was giving me a hard time last week. But I'm perfectly fine now. I recover fairly quickly. Now it's just my allergies because my body hates it when the weather adjusts or like when it changes rapidly. So it's just out. It happens every year. But yes. So make sure you take care of yourself physically and mentally, because my mental health tip of the day is going to be about the relationship between mental and physical health. As usual, this is from Psych Central. I love Psych Central because their articles are reviewed by mental health professionals or specialists in their field. So this one, the reason why mental and physical health go in hand is patients. A good example is patients with both depression and physical health problems are at risk. The physical problem can complicate the assessment and treatment of depression by masking or mimicking its symptoms. So, if you are if you have physical health symptoms, guess what? It can be it can emulate depression, and guess what? It can also make it worse. And it works the other way too. Any person with a chronic physical disease tend to feel more psychological depressed than healthy people do. So poor physical health brings an increased risk of depression, as do social relationship problems that are very common among chronically ill patients. So yes, this might encourage you to go out for a walk or try to work out or keep yourself physically healthy. It's incredibly important, so it keeps your mental health intact as well. Do I know therapists that are really good about keeping their physical health intact or taking care of their physical body as well as their mental health? No, I do not, unfortunately. I don't see a lot of therapists that make sure they keep themselves healthy, work out on a daily basis, watch what they eat, and try to stay healthy physically, because our career field is a lot of rough work. And if you can't take care of yourself physically, guess what? Your mental health is going to crash when you try to treat other patients. And if it's something like a severe case that you can't take. So that's why I keep myself very physically healthy as well as mentally, because it works hand in hand. By being physically healthy, I can be here for my patients as well as my wrestling coach as a wrestling coach. So definitely take a look at this article. Again, I put the link in the description, and this is my top 5 teams for the Great League Remix in Season 13. And without further ado, let's get started. Alright, for the first team we have Abomasnow. Okay, you know, you vote for Obama, you get the joke already if you've watched my content for a while. But this is Abomasnow. You have Gliscor Save Switch and then Machamp to close out. Your primary save switches for the Great League Remix this time around is going to be Pelipper and Steelix. Pelipper and Steelix are really good save switches just because of the new Psychic Fangs buff for Steelix. Well, it's not really new, but from before. And then you also have a Pelipper, which has always been a good save switch since literally Season 2, 3, or whenever it actually released. But for this one, we're going to use Gliscor. So Gliscor actually can function as a save switch. Abomasnow lead beats Pelipper. It also beats Steelix. And it also takes out Stunfisk. So if you get a Stunfisk, which is a core breaker for Pelipper and Steelix, this team will love seeing Stunfisk. As you see, not a lot of bulk. This team doesn't encompass a ton of bulk. They're literally designed to do a ton of damage. Along with that, as you look over here for the meta-analysis, this entire team beats Steelix. You love to see Steelix with this team. In any position, you want to see Steelix. But as you see, Abomasnow is a solid lead just because it's able to take out Steelix. It's also capable of Guzzlord, Pelipper, Aurorus, Diggersby, Wishcash. It does a lot of work for you for a lot of popular leads. Scroll down to whatever it's weak against or whatever your threats are, it's going to be Charizard and Jirachi. Now, the thing about Charizard is Charizard isn't rocking Fire Spin, so it's not going to delete you from the face of the earth, but it still has a really good matchup. As you see here, it's going to be able to just straight Dragon Claw you to death with Wing Attack. But it leaves Charizard nearly dead. So, as you see here with Wing Attack, it leaves, well, not nearly dead, but you can send in you can choose to sack Obama, but honestly, just switch in a Gliscor. Gliscor has a better matchup against Charizard if you look over here. So if you look up in the 2-shield against Charizard, yeah, Charizard wins, but if you boost, you can take this matchup. So if you boost, you can take this matchup in any way, shape, or form. Or what happens is Charizard has to burn all of its energy out. What happens if you see a Charizard, all you do is send in Gliscor, straight Night Slash, see if they commit both of their shields. If they do, have them Blast Burn you to death. Then send in Machamp to farm down, and then try to close out the match with a Machamp with full of energy. Other than that, solid team. As you see, a threat score of 637, which isn't that bad, which is actually really dang good. And Obama protects you from Gliscor and Machamp's weaknesses in Pelipper and Manabuzz, which are the flyers. So, typical standard team setup. Your front lead protects your back row, etc. You lose the lead, say switch into Gliscor, try to break as many shields as you can, or bank on the boost. Or if you get a Steelix, Earthquake, break those shields, and then Obama Machamp closes out. Next up is a pretty, well, it's not really anti-meta, but you're using Stunfisk. So Stunfisk is the anti-meta to the Pelipper Steelix core if you see it around a lot. But Steelix and Pelipper, they mesh together well just because one can kind of fill in for the other. Steelix can be the safe switch, or Pelipper can be lead, or you could flip it upside down. Steelix, Pelipper, Machamp. You lose lead with Stunfisk, Pelipper is your safe switch, and then Machamp closes out. If you get something like a Galvantula thrown into your Pelipper, then you can wall everything with, well, not wall everything because lunge with Stunfisk, but you can have Stunfisk just go ahead and try to get as much energy as it can, and hopefully Machamp can close out the match for you. Not a lot of bulk. That's what happens when you put Pelipper and Machamp together. You don't get a ton of bulk like the last team. But what happens is that this team, as you see, Stunfisk does well against Steelix and Aurorus. It can also give things like Pidgeot, as well as all the other flyers, a hard time. Well, it gives every flyer a very hard time in this cup. Your potential threats are going to be Cofagrigus. Okay, so yes, Cofagrigus is good. There's actually a lot of other things outside of the top meta that can actually be viable. But Cofagrigus, the reason you might not see a lot of it is because Diggersby. So Diggersby is very powerful in this cup as a top 10 pick, which is why you might scare Cofagrigus away. But you also see a bunch of odd things like Dragonite, Hypno, Mew, Renegades, Serperior, etc. Stunfisk's worst nightmare is a grass type, which is why we have Pelipper and Machamp. Because Pelipper has Wing Attack, it can straight Weather Ball, or it could possibly Hurricane your way to a safe switch victory, which is why it's the best safe switch. And then Machamp is just there to muscle down the closer. Hopefully it can. But yeah, all of your weaknesses here outside of Guzzlord shouldn't give you too much of a hard time. Even Guzzlord versus Stunfisk in the 2-shield. Although Guzzlord wins, as you see here, it will expend all of its energy. At which this point you can send that Machamp to literally farm the unholy crap out of it. And after you farm down said Guzzlord, you can have Machamp try to close out the rest of the match. So, very solid team. This is really here just to catch Steelix, Pelipper, and any of the flyers in the lead with Stunfisk, just because Stunfisk is kind of it's like I mentioned, it's the core breaker to Pelipper, Steelix, and a lot of the other flyers. Next up, we have Diggersby, Steelix, and Pelipper. So this is a double safe switch team. Remember I mentioned about Diggersby being the bane of every ghost type's existence? Well, this is Diggersby. The only problem is Frostless. So Frostless 2-shield can still work for here. The reason Frostless 2-shield might not do too well for you is just because the existence of Steelix and that Frostless is just really squishy. Also, Ninetales and Charizard I think they're underrated fire picks because they give Steelix a hard time, except for Pelipper, which Pelipper loves to see. Just because Weather Ball and Pelipper is amazing. What makes a double safe switch in Steelix and Pelipper really good is that you have a ton of bulk and it's a very safe team. Steelix and Pelipper, they ward off for each other with the exception of seeing a Stunfisk in the back, which is why we have a Diggersby in the lead, is just so we could see Stunfisk. Overall, you are going to hate ice types. As you see, Dugong, Relicanth, Abomasnow, Meganium. Also, the thing about it is that it's very iffy, but the Meganium loses the 2-shield. Steelix can, this is assuming they stay in, but Steelix can win the 2-shield against a lot of these picks just using straight straight Psychic Fang. So as you see here, against the 2 shield, as you see, Obama Snow will lose in 5 turns if they Psychic Fangs. Your opponent may or may not know this, or if they do know it, they're going to switch out. But yes, Steelix can win a lot of matchups in the 2 shields, just straight Psychic Fangs, because the Dragon Tail damage plus the defense debuff adds up. You lose the lead with Diggersby, you say switch it to Steelix. If they stay in, great. If not, you Psychic Fangs them to death, and hopefully Diggersby and Pelipper can close out the match for you. Pretty standard team. The reason why this does so good, despite your threat score being 690, that is a very nice 2 numbers, by the way, is because, like I mentioned, Steelix and its ability to Psychic Fang things down. But also, your weaknesses are very odd picks, whereas your back row can do well against everything but Stunfisk. So, yes, you want to, hopefully you don't see Stunfisk in the back. That's going to be your worst nightmare with your Steelix Pelipper core right here. Alright, next up we have Steelix, Pelipper, Machamp. I like Machamp in the back. We already know that. Well, Machamp closes out very well because it literally punches everything to oblivion. That, or you could Rock Slide Pelipper and possibly come out with a W. But this uses the Steelix Pelipper core. Like I mentioned, the next 2 teams will. Steelix and Pelipper, outside of seeing a Stunfisk, pair really well. The thing about it is, you hate Stunfisk. However, Steelix and Pelipper together does give you an A for coverage. Not a lot of bulk when you have 2, well, Pelipper isn't really much of a glass cannon. Steelix has bulk, but yeah, when you have 2 glass cannons in Pelipper and Machamp, your bulk isn't being that great. But overall, as you see, your Steelix and Machamp cover Pelipper very well. So Pelipper, the thing about Pelipper, as you see here, your superior is your potential threat, the only one. However, in the 2 shield, Pelipper actually wins, with the exception of you safe switching into it. So you're going to lose this matchup. However, well, yeah, you're going to lose with 1 turn because it's going to Frenzy Plant you to death. But this is why you have that 1 turn. And also, but it's kind of, I think you still win for the virtue that you win CMP. So the reason why you get that extra turn is because it has enough energy to fire, but it's kind of, I don't know how it's going to line up exactly like this. Either way, even if they do end up winning this, they have to blow their energy for Frenzy Plant to take out your Pelipper. So even if Pelipper goes down, you can go ahead and just farm down Superior with Steelix. You could farm down Superior with Steelix, or you could just punch it down with Machamp and then close out the match. But other than that, that's your only hard coverage with this. This is probably the team with the best threat score I've seen. And your only contingency plan is literally Superior. Superior, but the funny thing is Superior in the 2 shield, Steelix wins the 2 shield against Superior. So you don't really have to switch out of a Superior to begin with. So you have the option of switching out, but Steelix does win straight Psychic Fangs against Superior. Mind you, this isn't even the Shadow version, so. But as you see, really solid team, is pretty standard. Steelix, you switch into Pelipper, and then Pelipper, hopefully Machamp and Steelix can close out. You're going to hate seeing Stunfisk. Stunfisk is going to be your worst nightmare if you see it. Now, Stunfisk is, here it is right here. So Pelipper versus Stunfisk in a 2 shield. Absolute destruction for you. So what you're going to have to do here is you're going to have to send in Machamp, and Machamp can hopefully take out Stunfisk and whatever your opponent has left. Because if you switched out of Steelix, you likely swapped out of either the Stunfisk or they might have an answer to Steelix. So be very careful about how you approach it. But yes, you should be able to come in here Machamp. Machamp beats down Stunfisk, and hopefully it can take out whatever your opponent has left. Pretty standard. So already mentioned, once again, you lose lead with Steelix, say switch in Pelipper, Machamp closes out, or you farm down Machamp, and then you cross chop and rock slide your opponent to oblivion. Last but not least, we have Pelipper, Steelix, and Lucario. Yay, ABB! Nothing is complete without ABB, right? You have Pelipper, Steelix, Lucario. Pelipper is there in the lead. If you lose lead with Pelipper, you say switch into Steelix, and Lucario can hopefully Power Punch, Shadow Ball your way to victory, or Pelipper can close out as well. Same grades as the previous team. Pelipper lead works because you can Weather Ball things to death. When it comes to Steelix versus Pelipper, guess what? Steelix wins the 2 shield, but you can go ahead and send in Lucario, farm this thing down, and Shadow Ball and pup your way to victory if they have a Steelix. Same thing with Guzzlord. Guzzlord loves seeing you just because it's a dragon, but with Steelix and Lucario, you have 2 options against whatever Pelipper is weak against, for the most part. So, as you see with Steelix, with Pidgeot, you're going to say switch in and you're going to lose it. However, hopefully Lucario and Pelipper have enough energy for you to take out Pidgeot. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to send a Pelipper to try to take out Pidgeot. So just because you have to Hurricane it to death. But overall, Stunfisk is your worst nightmare. You send in Steelix to Stunfisk in the 2 shield. That's what happens. Stunfisk will technically lose the 2 shield against you. However, this 1 turn difference is what really scares you. Because what happens is they Mud Bomb you, and then you have to farm down Stunfisk. Lucario takes a decent amount of damage because it's a glass cannon, so just be careful. But Lucario can go ahead and farm it down, and then you have all that energy in the back. So Lucario or Pelipper would be loaded with energy, and then you try to wipe out your opponent. Lucario is kind of an underrated pick, but you take neutral damage from the flyers, and you do really well against Frostless. So it's kind of very weird how Lucario stacks up against it. In my opinion, Machamp is better because Machamp beats Lucario, but Lucario can take out a bunch of other picks, especially since it has Shadow Ball. So Shadow Ball, you have that answer against Cofagrigus or against Frostless if you're able to Shadow Ball it to death. So, but pretty standard. This is pretty much like this last team from before, except you're just switching Steelix and Pelipper around. And if you lose the lead with Pelipper, you say switching Steelix, and then Pelipper and Lucario close out. Very simple to do, and hopefully brings you a lot of dubs, because Lucario is a very expensive and squishy mon. And that's game. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Season 13 doesn't seem like it's going to be very good, unfortunately. I think the worst move for Season 13 is they took away Classic Cups, the ones that banned XLs, because Niantic's justification is that XLs have been out long enough, or there have been plenty of contingencies like XL training, etc., for you to be able to do XL Cups. The logic with that blows my mind, because if you have newer players come, guess what? They're not gonna have XLs. A higher barrier to entry does not make a healthy game. Top esports games, top competitive games online, or just in general, have low barrier to entry costs. You do not, PvP is going to die at one point. It really is, or they're gonna have to overhaul the system because it's just not sustainable. As far as the competitive scene goes, it's an absolute joke. We're still having glitches, and like I mentioned, a high barrier to entry is the exact opposite of what most... Why are you going to do something that doesn't work? It's not only just Pokemon, but it's also Nintendo. For those of you that don't know, Nintendo just shut down one of the largest Super Smash tournaments of all time. So if someone tries to make a really big prize pool for Pokemon Go, they're going to shut it down, or Nintendo will, because guess what? Pokemon and Nintendo go hand in hand. So that just shows you just how greedy this company is. And unfortunately, like, if you enjoy casually playing PvP, that's great, but competitively, you aren't going to find any solace in making or breaking PvP. Most people don't care. Most people, like, in the general game community, don't care about Pokemon Go, which is very sad. So I'm hoping this Season 13 still permits you guys to play, but like I mentioned, it's a huge step back from what could have been better. And I really wish they listened to feedback, but it's obvious that Niantic doesn't listen to feedback. They listen to what fills their pockets. Other than that, I hope you're all looking forward to Season 13. Whether or not you made Legend or not, you're good to go. And we're going to go into this madness cycle. We're going to do this insanity cycle or madness cycle all over again. Good luck on your Go Valley sets, and I will see y'all on the next video.
That I made, all the things that I have craved, these are what I could have seen.